Welcome back, boys and girls, to another new video, and as we promised, there's plenty of content in March because there's so many games. Raj is, of course, with us as usual, and he's got his beloved board with him as well.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. It was a very interesting matchup and a bit of an upset.
Yeah, well, it's going wrong for Manchester City and it's going right for Manchester United. Chelsea winning today as well. I have a question for you guys before we get in this video. Drop your answers in the comments below. Who do you think will finish in the top four? I'll ask Raj the same question at the end of the episode, so make sure you stick around for that. And make sure you subscribe and stick around for all the content coming through March and for the rest of the season. And of course, if you enjoy this video, drop a like. Raj, of course, you're at the board so that we can discuss the formations at Man City and Manchester United setup. So we'll let you kick things off.
Yeah, it was an interesting setup. I think we're seeing a bit of consistency from Solskjaer now. He's gone with the 3-5-2 and he went in several big games. He did it against Man City in the second leg of the Carabao Cup. He did it against Liverpool to some success, but not great success. Did it against Chelsea, good victory there. And we saw it again today, the 3-5-2. He's got it out again. And it worked pretty well, I think. And I think mainly from a defensive point of view, it made Man U rock solid. City created 0 big chances in a game. And I can't remember the last time you would have said that about a Man City side. And I think that was down to the structure that Solskjaer set United up in. I think I kind of describe it as a wall with 4 layers to it.
Here we go.
In Solskjaer's system. So the front, we had the pressing was actually brilliant today from Man U. It wasn't necessarily a high press. They were quite a bit of a mid press situation. They were allowing the likes of Otamendi and Fernandinho to carry it a bit. But then as soon as they got approaching towards anywhere near the halfway line, that's when it started to initiate the press. And it was Bruno central to that, playing in this kind of false 9 attacking midfield role, which we saw him play against Everton as well, albeit in a different system. But he did it again, and he was the right guy triggering that press. And you saw on several occasions, he was actually pointing to Anthony Martial and Dan James to press at certain occasions. And it's that leadership Man U have lacked from the front, really. We said this before. Who's actually leading the press for United previously? They played the system against Liverpool, and it's Andres Pereira playing this role. And he really had no impact in terms of closing opposition players down. But Bruno is the opposite of that. Man City couldn't really carry the ball into midfield, and that was the main reason for it. So that was layer 1 of the wall, I'd say. Layer 2, you had...
We're going to be here a while.
You had Fred and Matic. Those guys were brilliant today. I think Matic he's gone back to his role which he played under Antonio Conte, where he's not been told that he needs to cover lots of ground. He's really sitting here as a pivot in front of the defence, really. And this Matic. And then it's really Fred who's doing a lot of the groundwork in terms of winning duels and recovering balls all over the pitch. And I think that suits Nemanja Matic very well, and you've seen an improvement in his form.
Yeah. Well, do you say there's 4 layers? Have you got 4 layers or you got 2 layers?
I thought I'd get your thoughts first.
Yeah, so I think the interesting about the Matic and Fred combination that we're seeing now is, as you mentioned, Fred has almost become Matic's Kante. He does all the legwork, and also Fred today played some very interesting passes in between the lines, and I think, as you mentioned, Bruno was the trigger for Man City's errors, but I'll let you add the other 2 layers before we get into even more about Bruno and how these triggers happened.
I think the other key things were it was the wide areas for Man U, defending the wide areas. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, absolutely phenomenal today. He had Sterling in his pocket, 8 tackles he made in the game, which is pretty ridiculous, really. We know he loves a tackle, but that, even for him, is quite a lot. And Man City couldn't isolate him. They actually dribbled past Wan-Bissaka 0 times. But on the left-hand side, he had a bit of a different balance. Williams, he did get dribbled past quite a bit. 6 times he was dribbled past today. But that actually didn't matter too much because you had Luke Shaw backing him up as a left-sided centre-back. So they had those 2 players there. So although Man City did manage to get through on occasions down the right-hand side, they had 2 men to get through. And I think that was vital for United's defensive setup. And then lastly, in the middle, I thought Maguire and Lindelof, they weren't really tested a lot, but I felt that they held their line very well. There was only one occasion really that Aguero offside, which Man City managed to breach it in behind. And I think positionally, they were very good today.
Yeah, I think the 4 layers you mentioned, I think every layer sort of has its own role. Lindelof and Maguire basically almost play like Sunday League defenders, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but they basically get the ball clear. They don't do anything fancy. Maguire, who people know to be a really good ball playing centre back for United, doesn't do that very much. especially against the bigger sides like we've seen today. In front of them, Matic and Fred do exactly what you said, and in the wide areas, although Wan-Bissaka's playing right wing back, you don't actually see him get forward very often. United rely on Daniel James and Martial and Bruno Fernandes going forward, and that's where I want to look. Obviously, this system works brilliantly defensively. Now, we've seen today, United actually created the more bigger chances than Manchester City, despite having a lot less possession. Man City had 73% possession in the game, 80% possession in the second half, but all the big chances came from Manchester United. How do you think Manchester United were breaching that City backline, even though they're playing such a defensive setup?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the man you mentioned earlier, Fred. He was key to that today. He was able to drill those passes along the floor and break the lines through Man City's press. I thought that was key. And also, him and Matic were actually playing quite direct balls into the wide channels. Obviously, you had Martial and James as a front two, which they play wide quite a bit. So playing those balls round the back and in behind the fullbacks was very useful for United. And the key was, they had Bruno in the middle, the glue to the play, you could call him. Because anything which came in the middle, he was able to then lay it off to one of the front two. And he was always an outlet available with the ball. Even at the end there was an occasion where he got the ball in an advanced right position. And he just cooled everything down. He took the ball, then turned back towards his own goal, then spread the play to the left-hand side. That's what he provides. Not just goal scoring, not just playmaking, cool and calmness in possession.
Well, obviously, we've got two very big Bruno fans here. I've been on the Bruno bike pretty much since the start of the season. Since the start of when he joined Manchester United. I think today's performance was an epitome of what he brings to United as an overall player. He obviously got that assist, which is a piece of genius. Ederson shouldn't have made two mistakes. And I think people will look at this game and go, well, it's two goalkeeping mistakes. It can happen any time. But this is now becoming a bit of a reoccurring theme with Manchester City, that someone's making an error or something's going wrong. And you could point to lack of focus. But I actually think something you mentioned earlier with Bruno being the trigger point in the press, every time Manchester United pressed at the right time, the ball was going back to Otamendi, Fernandinho and Zinchenko, whose selection I thought was really bizarre considering he was up against Daniel James, and Cancelo, who actually had a good game. I thought that was bizarre because Kyle Walker bails him out a lot on their right hand side. But the problems for me actually, although United did a lot of good things, lied with Manchester City. I think Manchester City made a lot of mistakes today. On the ball, off the ball, positionally they were all over the place. It was chaos in the first half. Do you think that was just because of Manchester United's brilliant pressing, or do you think there's actually something fundamentally going wrong at Manchester City, aside from the fact that people are going to go, there's no Laporte?
Obviously no Laporte, and then obviously no Kevin De Bruyne as well. And I thought the setup from Pep wasn't great, to be honest. He played Ilkay Gundogan as an advanced 8, and that was really a throwback to some really poor performance where Gundogan's played as an 8, going back to last season. He's actually been more successful sitting in a deeper role as a 6, either on his own or alongside Rodri, as we saw in the Santiago Bernabeu, where he was phenomenal at controlling the ball. Today, he wasn't really offering himself in between the lines. And the other thing was Bernardo and Foden, I thought they were really congesting each other on that right-hand side. They weren't really finding their own spaces, and that's because both of them obviously are left-footed playmakers who like to cut in and play through balls in behind the defence. And I think they were just occupying the same real spaces, really. And that goes back to a fundamental flaw of Man City's attacking, I think, this year. I think they've really missed Leroy Sané on the left, his pace and drilling balls across the box for Sterling to tap in at the far post, for Aguero to tap in. And again, similarly, because of that, they've played Sterling on the left and they've missed Sterling's width on the right. So I think that is actually a very big problem for City today.
Yeah, I think if you strip away Laporte's injury and Sané's injury, I think today, dare I say, I'm sorry, Pep, if you're watching this, he got it completely wrong. I think he started Foden, maybe jumped on the hype train of people saying Foden has to start, but today the game demanded width. Manchester United's back 5 and Matic and Fred want you to play narrow. Playing Foden off the right, he's going to come narrow because the playmaker is not a winger. It works against Villa, but it's a completely different type of game. And then Bernardo Silva, who's playing in this sort of a central sort of area, but drifting right very frequently. And also Aguero tends to drift right as well. So you've got 3 players going into the same channel. And I don't want to drag Sterling out, but Sterling's form this season has been poor. No goals in 2020. It doesn't look even half the player he has been in the past. Seems to have gone back to his old ways a little bit. He's a little bit rogue. And 1v1 against Wan-Bissaka doesn't even make sense to me. I was at the game where Man City played Manchester United, and I don't know if you agree, but did you feel like Man City, for some reason, just weren't attacking Manchester United's left side until Mahrez came on? The entirety of the first half, everything's going to Sterling or whoever was on their left-hand side against Wan-Bissaka, and as we know, that's not a battle that Sterling really fancies at the moment.
No, yeah, it was not a very bizarre tactic, really. I think I'm really confused as to why Pep didn't try and change it and put Sterling on the right. You saw Foden, as you said, Foden was cutting inside. Cancelo actually found him in good space 3 times, and he found Mahrez another time as well in the second half. But the thing is, those guys were just cutting straight back in, so that you needed someone to run in behind and get beyond the defender, not to cut back in and give Man U time to get back into position. Yeah. I thought that was bizarre, really. But yeah.
I think the other thing that was bizarre as well, we saw Manchester United, Manchester City travel to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup when they won 3-0, and they played. Yeah. You could say a false nine or a double false nine, or as some fans have said to me, a triple false nine. It's definitely not a triple false nine. I can assure you, it's a singular false nine. But we saw that really work. I'm absolutely baffled as to why he'd start Aguero. Apparently, wasn't fully fit. Obviously, when you're missing De Bruyne, I think that changes the entire complexion of the game. But for me, I think Manchester City got it massively wrong today. And the final question I'm going to ask you before you sit down is, are we now looking at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and saying he's actually a bit of a tactical genius in these bigger games? And I don't mean to throw it on you like that, but do you think it's because other managers don't prep for United, don't take United seriously, or do you think he's actually got the knack of how to win these sort of games? And Spurs coming up next, it's a massive 6-pointer.
Well, yeah, you look at his record, it is phenomenal, really. It's the only real poor performance I can remember is probably the Liverpool away game. And as I said, he had Andres Pereira starting in that position, so on the ball and off the ball, it didn't help them. But yeah, I think Solskjaer has got a counter-attacking template now. And I think he's got the best out of Fred, which is key for transitioning him from defence to attack. And he's got these runners in wide areas. They didn't even use the ball too well today, especially Daniel James. Yet Man U still scored 2 goals. Imagine when they get Marcus Rashford back in that position. They could be a threat for many big teams.
As you can see, Raj has left his beloved board. That's probably the longest time you spent next to it. How did that feel?
Yeah, legs are aching now, to be honest.
Did you get to the gym and do some leg work? As always, we finish on some general themes, but this one is slightly away from the Manchester derby because it was a massive win for Manchester United, 2-0 against Manchester City, who now probably will be focusing on the Champions League. Chelsea winning, Spurs drawing, Arsenal winning. This top 4 battle is topsy-turvy. Who do you think is going to finish in the top 4? Do you think this is a signpost for Manchester United, this game, that they can actually go and get into the top 4 now?
Yeah, it's definitely very encouraging for them. But I would say one thing is now Chelsea will likely get knocked out of Europe by Bayern Munich. So I think that'll free up their fixture schedule quite significantly. United are going to have this Europa League business going on Thursday, Sunday. To be honest, that I wouldn't actually mind if I was knocked out of the Europa League now if I was Solskjaer. I'd be confident if we got a free schedule we can get top 4. But yeah, I think if United continue in Europa, I think Chelsea might just cling on. Leicester, I think, could be in bigger danger of collapsing. Yeah. Their form is pretty dreadful. Maddison not scored or assisted, or got 1 assist in 14-15 games. So he's in poor form. And yeah, Vardy as well.
Vardy hasn't scored in 2020.
Yeah, so I think they're in big danger. And maybe Sheffield United, Wolves. I think Wolves, again, with the Europa League, that'll be tough. But Sheffield United still grinding out the results, aren't they? So they're definitely a threat. But I'd at the moment, I'd say Man U and Chelsea will get the top 4.
Oh, see, I was going to say the same. I think Leicester are going to drop out. Although the one thing I would say is Leicester haven't had Ndidi in 2020, and Ndidi is like what Henderson is to Liverpool or what Kante was to Chelsea and Leicester back in the days. I think when he comes back in, they're a bit more expressive, they play better football. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to tentatively say it'll be Liverpool, obviously, Man City, Chelsea, Manchester United. But I do think Leicester will run it really tight. I think Wolves will fall off because of Europa League. I think Sheffield United will fall off because you can feel it right now that they are dragging a little bit. Arsenal could sneak into it, but I don't think they've got the legs. They're scraped over the line and keep scraping over the line. So it'll be an interesting race for the top 4. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, make sure you drop in the comments below who you think will finish in the top 4. And just as a little heads up for this week, we've got plenty of Champions League football coming your way, and we'll be obviously looking at tactical analysis for several of the games. And we also have our preview drop dropping tomorrow as well for the Tuesday and Wednesday games of this week. So make sure you tune in for that. Hit the notification bell, subscribe if you're new, drop a like if you video if you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next time.